uh, pull it straight, because see you're Hello, welcome to My Startup TV. I'm Major Sunil Shetty with yet another episode of the Thought Leader Show. Today we have a remarkable leader who has journeyed across industries from corporate boardrooms to social innovation hub or labs. My guest today is Mandar Apte. He is the former head of Shell's Game Changer program and now on a mission to redefine purpose and impact. Welcome, Mandarji, welcome to the show.
It's an honor to speak to anyone in law enforcement also who has pivoted careers.
Thank you very much, sir. Mandarji,
You often say purpose is a destination and it's a journey. Purpose is not a destination, it's a journey. Can you take us back to when this philosophy first shaped your life or career?
I go back, every day changes your life if you're open to receiving that change. But the biggest change that jolted my life was in 2001, after 9/11. I was on a business trip in Nigeria on a petroleum assignment, and it was in the Niger Delta. We were 3 petroleum engineers working on an oil and gas field, and suddenly out of nowhere, a whole village came and attacked us with swords and stones and sticks. And we did not have any time to think, ye kya ho raha hai? Why are they after me? We just ran. So it's like the fight or flight got kicked, and this one was just flight, like run. And we ran in a military truck, Nigerian army, and we went into the Shell camp that evening. And that is where, looking back, was the first time I thought about life and the purpose of my life, like what just happened. And such events don't just go away by reading a book or going to the pub and having a drink. They stay with you. And you think that they are negative events, but they actually wake you up from slumber and make you realize about, life is short. They make you aware of a very important spiritual principle called death, which, we take for granted when we say to people, good night, see you tomorrow. But such events, when they come in your life, it's when you get forced on this mission of purpose discovery. And I would say that would be the most humbling event of my life, that reshaped and like repurposed what I feel. The rewiring happened, like, why am I here? What's my existence about?
Well, I think in some ways I can relate to what you have gone through. So what sparked your personal transformation from a corporate leader at Shell to someone deeply involved in social innovation and meditation?
Back to the same 2001 story. I had to look for some tool, wisdom to transform my well-being. Meditation practices came in my life in Houston in 2002, and my teachers were 2 white Americans. And learning from them about being in the present moment and pranayama, I felt embarrassed that why didn't I know any of this when I was growing up in India? And their dedication actually inspired me to become a teacher. So I, quote unquote, healed myself, although healing doesn't really happen immediately. But at least the path to that healing, I found the tools, and I felt I'm working at Shell 9 hours a day. And that's when I realized that, can I be a change agent in this large super tanker called Shell? Because the energy industry moves the whole world, literally. So sitting inside the belly of the beast, can I be that inspiration or messenger of compassion, kindness from within the company? And so that is when I started teaching meditation at work in 2003, 2004, like 20 years ago, when meditation, mindfulness were not buzzwords in America. And there you see hope, because people who come to your classes, they benefit from it. And that's when you realize that, oh, I can design pipelines in my day job, but is that my purpose? And that journey, America also had a crisis during that time called post-trauma stress disorder in the American army. Every 22 minutes, a soldier used to commit suicide. So more American soldiers died in America after the Iraq-Afghanistan war than actually in Iraq and Afghanistan. So in my evenings and weekends, I used to spend time with American soldiers in the American Veterans Hospital, teaching them pranayama, meditation, Sudarshan Kriya practices, and seeing them also on that healing journey. It used to give me like goosebumps, like, wow, I'm making a difference. And one of my mentors, peers, bosses asked me what I do in my evenings. And I told my boss what I do in my evenings is I teach meditation to soldiers. So he said, why don't you teach at Shell? And I said, what? You want me to bring my passion at work? So he said, yeah, because innovation, which was my day job, is also about passion. And it's also about failure, because early stage innovation is almost certainly associated with failure. So just giving money to entrepreneurial ideas is not enough. Can we also give them resilience-based learning so that they can pick up from their failures? And that is very difficult for any entrepreneur to accept failure, because their ego doesn't allow them to recognize that we need to work on a plan B. So that's where my manager boss invited me to design a program using meditation as the chocolate, and the wrapper on the chocolate is creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship. So that is when I realized the role of a real mentor, a real boss who realizes what is this employee's passion, and can I invite the whole self to come to work. And in 2 years, I designed this program and I taught about 2,000 Shell staff worldwide meditation practices. And such bosses are very rare. So we now need to think leadership in the 21st. How compassionate are you? How inclusive are you? Or are you just treating your staff as, worker bees?
And this somehow,
post corona, this whole concept of looking life at life beyond what you regularly do, that 9 to 5, really picked up pace. So you have journeyed through multiple worlds, be it corporate, social, spiritual. How did these intersections shape your worldview?
So Corona was, the silver lining for the Corona pandemic was that everybody went online, which we could have all done 10 years ago because the tools were available, right? But Corona forced us to go online. And the world opened up, because now sitting in India, I could speak to somebody in Brazil. I don't have to be in Brazil. So what I found was that people are looking for being part of the solution. People are tired of complaining. People are tired of, being used by the politicians. And people are looking for contributing to the positive side of the world. Because, violence is happening everywhere in the world. And one of the reasons is a lack of mental well-being, a lack of being unable to heal from your trauma. And if you don't do it, it shapes your personality. You either hurt yourself or you go and hurt somebody else. And that could be through words that you use. Doesn't have to be punching or murdering someone. It could be just your behavior also will change. So that is what I felt is missing in the world, is we are all seeking peace, but we are looking in the wrong place. We are not looking within. And that is where I started thinking about how can India's wisdom, traditions, culture, which is all about peace and well-being and harmony, how can we package it such that it becomes integrated in different systems in the world, like police system, for example? That's not a very healthy job. It's a very stressful job, especially cities like Chicago, Los Angeles. It's a very dangerous job. We expect the police officer to be stress free, right? Similarly, we send our children to school. We expect the teacher to be stress free, but they are also human beings. So that was my discovery in the pandemic: is this inner well-being. Everyone needs it. Everybody will become better nurse, better teacher, better police officer. How do we package this into an offering? And so that is what I did through these last 6 years. I started a consultancy on peace building called Cities for Peace. And my clients are various cities in the world where there is a lot of violence. Los Angeles being my first client, where almost every day a murder happens in one part of LA called South Central Los Angeles. And for one murder, Sunilji, we calculated how much money is spent by the taxpayer. So one murder happens in LA, and you calculate the direct cost and the indirect cost. It adds up to $8 million per murder. So now you will ask me how. So direct cost, like you need to send some officers to look for the culprit. You need to put them in jail. There is a trial. There is a sentence. There's a 30, 40, 50-year-old jail sentence, prison time. That's direct cost. Indirect cost, more murders in this neighborhood. You need more police, more pants, more cameras, more cars, more dash cams. So it builds up. It stacks up. And so that
money could have been spent for better purpose.
$8 million.
Leadership workshop that I did for the city of Los Angeles is I made them realize that you are spending money on violence. A little fraction of it, if you can use and provide these services of mental well-being, healthy living, healthy food, violence can be nipped at the bud. So that was the workshop that we did between, there are two gangs there called Crips and Bloods. So we brought the two opposite gangs and the LA cops in the same room and made them realize that they are all looking for the same thing: well-being, peace, love, mutual respect. And unless they heal their own trauma, violence will perpetuate. I'll kill you because your uncle killed my neighbor. Your uncle killed and looked at my sister. So this perpetual flow of violence needs to stop. And that stops when you decide, I am not going to participate. So that is where we integrated these breathing techniques and meditation practices so that the nervous system is not just fight or flight. There is a very beautiful aspect that is within each one of us, which is called the peace system, right? Which is an inner voice that comes and says, Sunil, relax, it's okay, calm down. That is training is missing in the world. Even in India, we see that, right? Some small silly thing like you cut somebody's lane and you bang horn and show fingers. Like, what's wrong with you? Because we have not learned how to invoke the peace system. It's okay, dude, you're going to die. Choose your battles. What are you fighting for? This common sense, we now need to package it because it's wisdom of the highest order.
Very true.
Given the fact that societies, we are experiencing or noticing fractures across the society. So that's why the thing you're doing, the initiative that you're running, takes so much of importance. So you led Shell's Game Changer Social Innovation Program. Can you explain how this redefined the role of corporates in impact space?
So I'll go back to about 2012. I had finished this interesting part of my day job was to teach meditation at the workplace. So I got an award in 2012 called Intrapreneur of the Year. And I didn't know what this term means, but it is an entrepreneur, but inside a large organization. My work of bringing meditation, my passion at work, gave me that award. At that award event, I met with a very interesting man. He was training rats to sniff landmines. And the rats are on a leash like a dog. So they're not sacrificed. I thought initially they sacrifice, they blow up. And then I asked him, like, why are you doing this? Because he had trained 300 rats and they have an exam, they have to find mines to get that certification. Now I'm a demining rat. And I was really very impressed. Like, wow, what am I doing inside a technical company looking at technical innovation when people out there are doing these type of social innovations? I went back to my workplace. I told my boss what I had, met at this award event. I told him about this person, and he said, "Can you guess how many people are on the Shell payroll to clean landmines?" So I said, "Zero to nahi hai. You wouldn't ask me. Maybe 100." So he laughed. He brought a press release. Shell companies had hired 2,000 people in Iraq because they had discovered $1 billion of natural gas by the Kuwait border. And obviously during Desert Storm, that place was mined. So the CSR team thought, let's employ local people, let's teach them how to do demining. And once they are demined, we can produce the hydrocarbon. So it's an idea. We both jumped out of our chair and we said rats. So that was the discovery that rats from Africa can help Shell for two reasons. One, the life of this person that is cleaning the land will be safer, that he will know where is the landmine. Second, they are 10 times faster than human demining. So by employing rats as your co-pilot, you can get access to the land faster, which is money. So this term is called shared value. That innovation for Shell doesn't have to do anything about energy technology. It can be a social innovation that is not philanthropy, that is not donation, that is not CSR, but it is used for business benefit also. So that was my discovery in 2012, 2013. That shaped my life. We created a separate impact fund. And the next 4 years, my job was to find other innovations that create shared value. And that is where I realized after 4 years of doing that role that business must play a role going beyond CSR, because there's nothing wrong in making money. And in fact, that money helps you to sustain that solution, right? Sustain that idea. And one of the things I did was go back to my own challenge of being attacked in Nigeria to see whether can I invest in a peace building program through my game changer social innovation mandate that creates shared value, which is good for society and good for business bottom line also. And I found a business case. The business case was that when there is violence in those communities, oil pipelines, people steal oil from the pipelines. There are illegal refineries that are set up. Shiploads of oil is black marketed. So that is the business value, right? If you promote peace, it creates dual value. One, harmony, good CSR. Second, business value, no loss of revenue. So that's where I became a thought leader in that space of, can peace be profitable? And so with my own like meditation teacher background and a healthy relation with my manager, we decided what would I do if I leave Shell? And that became that sweet spot. Like, can I help organizations, brands, corporations, cities to look for how do you stop violence, promote peace and prosperity both? Right? That's the LA story. Like, you're putting so much money in the business of violence, you can take a little bit, invest in peace. So that was where I, found myself reflecting now 10, 11 years later that peace is not just the absence of war. Peace and security is the sustainable development goal number 16. People talk about SDGs. It is a 16, goal number 16. Business doesn't play a role in being part of the solution. And that is so stupid, because business also gets impacted. When there is a riot, businesses get impacted. So that is where I feel I would like to be a bad cop, good cop for the corporate world, to show them that, hey, you can do it. So anybody listening to this podcast, if you are part of a corporate entity, you need to start thinking about, hey, how can Microsoft promote peace? How can Google promote peace? How can McDonald's? How can Starbucks? How can your own business entity? How can it promote peace and make revenue? And if you find that sweet spot, you have left a legacy.
Very valid point. So, what does shared value mean in today's business landscape, and more particularly, how can startups, truly practice this beyond lip service?
Beyond lip service, if you have to go there, you have to find the authentic leader within. Okay, the leader that knows certain spiritual truths, that I am here for a short time. I'm here for a short time. Let everything that happen be in the good for the world and good for me. So that is where, that inner transformation needs to happen at every level, whether you are a startup leader or a leader of a Fortune 100 company. That how many business class flights will you take? How many Cancun trips will you take? So this realization that I'm here for a short time, I want to leave a legacy. And second, shared value thinking helps you to think beyond just money. Because the value doesn't have to be money always. It could be safety, it could be happiness, it could be prosperity beyond financial realm. That thinking again requires you to step out of your box and be more conscious, be more available, I would say, because the world has many challenges, right? And the world today is very complex. You can't predict what happens tomorrow. And these challenges are everywhere. There's suicides happening, there's homicides, there is riots, there is climate change impact, there is refugees. So as a startup, you can start thinking about creating a niche where you can create a win-win. And shared value thinking or shared value principles allow you to go beyond value just for me, right? And actually it's a no-brainer, right? It's a no-brainer, because in your success, and let's assume you become successful and you get $1 million exit and whatever, you sleep on a golden bed, that doesn't mean you will sleep well, my friend, right? The person sleepless, homeless will be much more enjoying his life and sleep than somebody who is sleeping on a golden bed. So shared value thinking without that inner discovery is again hollow. I was once having a chat with Michael Porter of the Harvard Business School. And Sunilji, I was asking him that, wouldn't it be nice if people, organizations come together to discover what are my shared values? Right? What values shape our life? What do we associate? What do we like? And once we are connected at the shared values level, then shared value, finding where we can make money and get a win-win will be very easy. And that is again where India and our culture is very unique, because we operate from a civilizational lens. You put 7 people in a train compartment, in a train ride, within 10 hours of that train journey, they know their 7 generations, right? They have shared food. That is where the world is missing. The world is missing on how do you create belonging, because that belonging value will come after, once that human connection is made. So my experience living in America and in the West, it's very transactional, whereas in our culture it's all transformational.
And also somehow,
the whole new concept, which I think at least I have been start hearing in for about a decade now, not before that, is the whole world of privacy since this social media came up, and in the process of privacy. No, not I don't mean that people should intrude into your private space, but then using privacy as a as an excuse, people have started building walls around them, which has secluded them even more. As you rightly said, in India, if you put 10 people in a train ride, even for 1 hour, probably they would know at least 2 generations within that time. They would have shared their numbers, they would have shared, and we have all experienced that, right? So,
Yeah,
what is the biggest?
I feel like a civilizational burden sometimes on my generation, that the next generation is all growing up on reels and God knows what.
30 seconds.
So,
30
how do
second
we
content.
pass on what we have learned from our parents and grandparents? Because that civilizational value passes on through your DNA, right?
Correct.
How do we pass it on before, like today? I mean, even my generation, when I came back from the US, my friends asked me, "Hey, come, let's go for a reunion." I said, "Where would you like to meet?" They said, "What about KFC?" And I said, "Dude, 25 years I lived in America. I never entered KFC." So that's where I think we have a responsibility as leaders to not forget our civilizational heritage and the knowledge that our culture possesses. And that is what I've now dedicated the last 10 years of my life, is to showcase that yoga meditation has well-being as a value. Yes, we know, but it can be used to solve problems, gang problems, for example, or violence in schools, the disease in America where kids go with a gun and school shootings happen, right? We can't stay away from solving those problems because our Indian diaspora is also in those schools. So that gives us, I think, an even greater responsibility to not just think of prosperity, but also human values. And I think that is the role India has to play. If you ever want to aspire being a Vishwaguru, as the Prime Minister says, it will probably not be by building solar alliances only, right? It's important.
There has to be spiritual alliances as well.
I guess.
Recently, India is on this Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, and we are the third or fourth GDP nation. Like, great, fantastic, new infrastructure. In Mumbai, we have metro, coastal road. It feels great. But only those trade corridors or prosperity-based development is not enough. We also need to build trust corridors. We also need to learn how to agree to disagree, because otherwise conflicts are bound to happen. And if people don't have that sanity, we are losing it just by focusing it on prosperity and development. Uh, so I hope some startups or some people who are listening to this podcast also look at, how do you manage and maintain the civilizational connection. And many movies like Kantara, for example, it's like they make a lot of money because people are interested in that viewing. Bahubali, like, what a brilliant production. People are interested in those Indian stories. We don't need to go out. Just look at the Ramayana, Mahabharata. There are 1,000 stories we can make. So startups don't have to be, technology based. It could also be technology for social good, civilizational good.
So,
For startup founders who are listening to this show, what would be your, how can they align or contribute to the broader movement that you are leading?
My work is now at the intersection of peace and prosperity, right? So I am working with several cities in the world to look at how do you solve their social problems of violence of different types. And startup founders, I'm looking for self starters to look at the role of culture tourism, culture diplomacy, because people are looking for what next? How do I solve the problem of Ukraine? How do I solve the problem of gun violence, right? And this country can provide that timeout, can provide that safe space to think out of the box. So I'm looking for startup founders who are proud of our culture, our heritage, because you cannot sell anything unless you are proud of that product, right? So like with that realm, I made a documentary film a few years ago. I hosted American victims of gun violence and perpetrators, the gang members of violence, on a spiritual transformation journey together in India. So that film is now used in schools to teach peace in the classroom. So that film is not on YouTube because it still has a monetary value, right? So like this, we need to think of other ways of how do you monetize. And that is what startups need to also think about, what in our country can be monetized. So culture, wisdom, traditions, tourism, films, animation, videos. There's so many things to do. Sky's the limit. Peace everybody is looking for. We need to give people what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So how can platforms like My Startup TV support, voices like yours and help bridge the gap between innovation and impact?
I think by having this conversation, you have already started. And, I look at people like you as a hive, right? Because you are pollinating with so many others. And we are all doing our work, whatever that work is, right? I look at initiatives like you of bringing people together that seemingly feel they are different. But now that you have had a conversation with me and 20 other people, that connecting the dots is a service that you can do or your platform can do. Is convening people that should be meeting, but they don't come and meet. And it could be based on certain, concepts like value-based education, which our country for sure needs to revive. And that is where we need a meeting of hearts and minds. The problems are many, like the children of today, the youth of today are into drugs, are committing suicides. I just came back from IIT Bombay. Last semester, there were 6 candidates that attempted suicide, and none of them were exam pressure. They were all simple things like my girlfriend went away with someone else. I asked a girl out. She rejected me for a date. And I'm sure this used to happen in my generation also, but it's happening a lot because reels and social media tells me that, hey, I can also ask somebody out.
Or probably,
in our times, living in the society, we knew how to handle these pressures. Not that in our generation, people didn't get rejected or these kind of incidents didn't happen. Probably the system was such. Today, the pressure is not just, let's say somebody's girlfriend went away with somebody else, or your proposal got rejected. The fact that you can't go to another person and talk about it, isn't it? Because as I mentioned,
that
we're living in a silos.
Nearest friend may be on a chat somewhere else, whereas we had a childhood friend. We used to go hang out. We could talk to someone. I think that is where again the pandemic played a big role in creating that dent that we don't know how to make friends these days. So that is where platforms like My Startup TV can create some domain like education, like I was saying, and bring people together who are thought leaders in different aspects of value-based transformational education. Right? We can't leave it to the Ministry of Education. We can't leave it to the Bombay Municipal Corporation. So civil society acting and entrepreneurship. So that is where startups come in, right? But then you need to create those ecosystems, and that is perhaps the role of conveners like you. Is
definitely. Yeah.
Play like a hive role, like you are inviting certain honeybees to come in your hive, pollinate, have a good time and go do something.
Thank you for that.
It adds another dimension to our vision. We have been talking to others, telling that we are a platform to bring entrepreneurs together, but you kind of gave a new dimension to it. So Mandar, we look forward to hosting you again, and definitely we want to explore with you an exclusive show on what you do, the kind of work you're doing, and along with you, we would love to be part of the journey where we can create impact, positive impact in the society. Thank you for joining us.
For all you do and your team. If anybody wants to watch my film, I can send you links that you can promote. Anybody.
In fact, we have a
which is basically meant for people like you, and it can be monetized. You can put your own, you can host your documentaries, your short films onto our OTT platform, and you can make it free or you can monetize it. So we have My Startup OTT.
When I work with gang members, because that's the demographic I've chosen to put my time on, I've taught hundreds, thousands of gang impacted people in America. I ask them, have you sold drugs? And they say yes. So I say to them, that means you know how to sell. Can you help me sell peace? So that gives them another dimension of life, right?
Very true.
And that's why this film is not on YouTube, because people become business development advocates, and we give them 50% of the revenue.
Very interesting. And we
look forward to being part of your journey and contribute in our own little ways, using our platform. Thank you, Manda. Thank you for joining us. And viewers, if you want to be part of such interesting conversation, join us on our Thought Leaders show, Monday to Saturday, 4 p.m. between 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. live. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again tomorrow. Thank you, Manda.